Hello everyone, welcome to Good Film Hunting, a podcast about an average couple who are on the hunt for some good movies. In today's world, we are consuming more media than ever, perhaps more passively than ever. But we believe that by documenting and discussing the media we intake, how and what we intake will change for the better. It is important that we don't just become another consumer, but a participant, seeking to engage with the media we consume, so that we can see how our view of the world affects how we perceive it, and how it affects how we perceive the world. In this podcast, we are not only on the hunt for some good movies, but on the hunt for a good discussion. So, lean in, participate, and enjoy.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Good Film Hunting. I'm your host, Savannah Scott, and with me is my co-host,
Wilbur.
Wilbur. Interesting.
Yeah.
How are you doing today?
Good. I don't know why I'm here, to be honest.
I don't know why you're here either. Go away.
Oh, okay. Sorry I'm late, guys. I don't know. Who is that?
That was Wilbur, apparently.
Oh, what was he doing on my couch next to you? But in all seriousness, welcome back, fellas. Welcome back, audience. Boys, girls, ladies, gentlemen, dogs, cats, fish, and other assorted creatures. This is the Good Film Hunting podcast, where we take a movie and we discuss it, we review it, we analyze it. I'm your host.
I feel like we've done this before.
Wait, what? No, I haven't. In all seriousness, it's good to be with you again, Savannah. It's been a busy week so far, has it not?
Yes.
It has. And it's been very wet outside. Unlike this movie we're about to review, which is the complete opposite of wet.
It's true. I know. I went outside today and I saw the tiniest glimmer of sun, and I was like, sun, and then it left again.
It's like, oh, I was spotted.
I
I was peeking behind the curtain too early. Awkward. How embarrassing.
I know.
How embarrassing. What movie are we discussing in depth tonight?
We were talking about The Prince of Egypt.
The Prince of Egypt. Wow. One I wasn't so sure if we'd do on this review or not. Like, I guess it was kind of like a more of a potential than my big fat Greek wedding, which never crossed my mind in a million years.
To watch?
Yeah, and let alone review it. Whereas this one, like, I knew we'd revisit it eventually, but I wasn't sure, like, if we would feel the need to review it. Because once in a while we'll watch something, we'll be like, this is just for fun. We don't need to review it in depth. Stow away with Shirley Temple.
Oh, yes, yeah. Sometimes you do watch a movie and you're like, yeah, we don't need to talk about this. I feel like there's another one that we watched like that, too. Rockadoodle.
Rockadoodle. Yes, that would have been a fun one, though. It was so bizarre.
It was very weird.
The animated genre. What a weird range of movies that has. But we're talking about The Prince of Egypt as it was established. If you're listening to this episode for the first time, let me give a brief breakdown of the episode structure. I've got a list of facts for Savannah that I will share with her about this movie. We will share our general spoiler-free thoughts about the movie. We will share our favorite moment of the movie. Savannah will go into a 5-minute plot recap, which will obviously be very spoiler-filled. Go through our rating system. Then we'll share our overall synopsis thoughts at the end, wrap it up, and move on to another movie some night. Not tonight, obviously, because it's very late for us. So, no way, Jose. So, Savannah, are you ready for some facts about The Prince of Egypt?
Oh, yes. Please share.
All right. So, The Prince of Egypt was released December 16th, 1998.
Wow.
I know, it's an oldie.
It is
not the oldest, obviously. It was directed by 3 directors, actually. The lead director being Brenda Chapman, who is the first woman to direct an animated film. She also co-directed Brave, Pixar's Brave.
Huh. Interesting.
Also, another director was Steve Hickner, who is best known for doing the Bee Movie.
Oh, no.
What a interesting way to go.
Oh,
And also, third director was Simon Wells, who, to my surprise, is the great-grandson of H.G. Wells, the author. So I thought that was interesting. And like I looked up his Wikipedia page, and apparently this is like the biggest thing he's ever done. He's just kind of, he's done storyboards for animation, but this is the only thing he's ever directed.
Oh, interesting.
So maybe he was the magic sauce.
He probably was.
This was distributed by DreamWorks, obviously. This was their second released animated movie, but the first 2D animated movie they did. So I'll kind of go into that a little bit more later because it's very interesting. The film obviously has a runtime of 99 minutes, pretty decent runtime, a budget of $60 million, and a box office return of $218.6 million. And it was second place the weekend it came out to guess what movie? It's one we've done before, and we've mentioned this before. It's one you wouldn't think.
I don't know.
1998. What else came out that year? Christmas time. One we would have reviewed. Think Toy Story. Oh, I guess we've done a few of those. Email.
Oh, You've Got Mail.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's behind You've Got Mail.
Why are we thinking about Toy Story?
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
Then I was like, oh wait, he's been in several
No,
movies
it's
you've done.
true.
That doesn't help at all.
Okay.
Oops.
Yeah, okay, You've Got Mail. Interesting. Second to that one?
Yep. So apparently it was a big weekend for female directors.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Interesting.
The score was done. You can say it because it was spoiled already.
The one and only Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer. I'm curious to know your thoughts about it later. This film stars Val Kilmer as Moses. Val Kilmer we've seen in Top Gun. He was Iceman.
Oh.
Kilmer also provides the uncredited voice of God in this film. That also stars Ray Fiennes as Ramesses. He's Lord Voldemort, most famously.
Oh, funny.
Michelle Pfeiffer, who was in Stardust as the witch, whatever her name was.
Oh, the main evil witch?
Yeah, the main evil witch. She was Zipporah. Sandra Bullock as Miriam. Jeff Goldblum as Aaron. Patrick Stewart as the Pharisee, the father of Ramesses. Do you know who Patrick Stewart is?
No.
He's an iconic actor, best known for doing like Professor X from the X-Men movies, but he's kind of Ian McKellen levels.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think we've ever seen anything he's been in.
Wait, who plays Miriam?
Sandra Bullock?
Yeah, that name is very familiar.
Yeah, I don't know if we've seen anything she's done, but she seems like a well-known actress. It also has Steve Martin as one of the priests, the Egyptian priest Steve Martin. He was a Cheaper by the Dozen father.
Yes, classic.
So this is quite a few iconic names in it. DreamWorks in particularly has always been known for casting iconic people in their films, for better and for worse sometimes. Sometimes just for the cash grabs, but in this case, like, it actually worked out, I think. Some development facts about this film. Jeffrey Katzenberg had frequently suggested an animated adaptation of the 1956 film The Ten Commandments while working for the Walt Disney Company, and he decided to put the idea into production after leaving Disney and co-founding DreamWorks Pictures in 1994. Katzenberger was released from Disney in 1994. There's a lot of controversy as to why. Some people say he wasn't the nicest guy around. And also Disney was kind of shady. And then he founded DreamWorks with Steven Spielberg, really to spite Disney.
Wait, Steven Spielberg was a
Yeah.
co-founder of DreamWorks? Interesting.
Yeah, that's why like movies Catch Me If You Can, Minority Report, The Terminal were all DreamWorks. He directed all those, but they were distributed by DreamWorks.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought
Back
that
when
was,
DreamWorks did do live action.
yeah,
Okay.
back before they realized animation is where the money's at.
Sure. Back when they were like, why do this when we can make Shrek?
I know, right? Shrek really did solidify them.
How to Train Your Dragon.
But Katzenberger really did found DreamWorks to spite Disney. He wanted to pretty much outdo them. And in a lot of ways, they did eventually prove to be a match for Disney in a lot of ways when Shrek did come out. But they had, I would say, more noble goals to start with films like The Prince of Egypt, where they were trying to meet the level of 2D animated musical, but prove they could do something more grand.
And I think they totally succeeded.
Oh, okay. But
Yes, no spoilers on
no
my
spoilers. But unfortunately, the film came out wrong place, wrong time, and it just wasn't as influential as they were hoping it would be. So this film was their second released animated film, first 2D film. The first film that came out was Ants, which, oh my goodness, what?
ANTZ.
ANTZ. Ugh, that film scarred me. Because that one was started in production second after The Prince of Egypt, but in order to beat A Bug's Life in theaters, they sped up and focused production on it, so it went to theaters months before A Bug's Life. That is
No,
so
I've never
absurd.
seen Ants, but it looks
Don't ever see
much
it.
worse than
Do
Bugs
not
Life.
see it. No.
Bugs Life is charming.
It is charming. It is charming. And
I feel like I've just seen the cover of the movie Ants, and it looks
Yeah.
really bad.
in A Bug's Life, it has Hopper. Like, you can't beat Hopper as a villain.
It's true.
Everybody loves Hopper as a villain. It's like he's the star of the...
I just saw, this is kind of a divergence, but it includes Hopper. There's this trend where you say, hear me out, but, or whatever, and so you're like talking about your like crushes on like weird characters from your childhood.
Oh no.
And these girls were all sharing theirs, and Hopper was one of them.
Oh no.
And I was like, no. Except they were like the grasshopper from A Bug's Life, and I was like, I didn't remember his name.
He
at the
has
time.
a name.
I know, but he was there. Like Gil is also a frequent.
It's so edgy animated male characters. It seems older edgy animated male characters. Why is
So I
that?
don't know.
Oh well. Don't think about it too much, I guess.
And if someone did the Iron Giant, and then someone's like, she took the Iron Giant, so I picked the Stone Guardians from Atlantis. And I was like, what?
What is wrong with you? You clearly have nothing better to do with your
I
time.
know. It was funny though.
That's funny. This film was written during the storyboard process, meaning there wasn't a script ahead of time. So they wrote it as they did the storyboard. Because DreamWorks was concerned about theological accuracy, Katzenberger decided to call in biblical scholars, Christian, Jewish, and Muslim theologians and Arab American leaders to help with the film to make an accurate and faithful adaptation to the original story. After previewing the developing film, these leaders noted that the studio executives listened and responded to their ideas and praised the studio for reaching out to comment from outside sources. Another interesting development fact. The task of creating God's voice was given to Lon Bender and Hans Zimmer. So they were in charge of creating that, the two of them. According to Bender, the challenge with that voice was to try to evolve it into something that had not been heard before. We did a lot of research into the voices that had been used in past Hollywood films as well as radio shows, and we were trying to create something that had never been previously heard, not only from a casting standpoint, but from a voice manipulation standpoint as well. Pretty much the traditional Hollywood radio makes God's voice very big, booming, masculine, deep. And so they wanted to try and do something a little more unconventional. And to avoid controversy, they had all the major actors rehearse the lines and record lines for this person because they were trying to figure out what to do and they were experimenting. And ultimately, what they ended up doing is they had Val Kilmer, who played Moses, have the prominent role because they wanted to particularly portray it as something that almost could be heard in his own head. And obviously they manipulate it so it sounds a little different, a little bigger. But if you listen really closely, you can hear everybody else's voices still underlying it.
Interesting.
So they kind of just, it was just really interesting that they chose to go that route.
Yeah.
Yeah. composer and lyricist Steven Schwartz began working on the writing songs for the film from the beginning of its production. And then Hans Zimmer was obviously brought on to compose music for the songs and then the score for the film. So, critical reception, generally positive, but nothing amazing at the time of its release. People praised the craft of the film, but thought it outweighed the emotional aspects of the story.
The craft outweighed the emotional.
That's what they said at the time of its release. However, similar to The Iron Giant, which was praised at the time but underwhelmingly so, has gained a lot of, not a cult following, but people have gone back and watched it and started to appreciate it more in retrospect. And especially this film in 2020, apparently there was a cover of the song When You Believe done by a couple famous singers, during the pandemic, and Broadway was shut down. And it just kind of reawakened people to this movie, and a lot of critics went back and watched it and started praising it. And a lot of people have gone so far as to say it's one of the greatest animated films of all time, and praised it particularly for its ability to have emotional moments without feeling the need to undercut it with a joke like so many animated films. And so it's gotten a lot more recognition and praise over the past 5-ish years, which has been, I think, well-deserved, as we'll go into. As far as awards go, Academy Awards, it won the Best Original Song for When You Believe, specifically the cover done by Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey.
I saw that.
I wasn't a fan of that version. I like the one in the movie better. But it beat, I couldn't believe this, it beat My Heart Will Go On from Titanic.
Wow.
I know.
That specific version?
That specific version, I guess, maybe? I don't know. Maybe.
My Heart Will Go On is way more famous.
It's true. It's like more iconic. Although I do have to say, the film, oh my gosh, my brain. The song in the actual film itself, not the Whitney Houston version, I would say I probably do like that more than My Heart Will Go On, even though that's more iconic just because of the impact it has in the story, but we'll go into that later. It was
You've never seen Titanic, so you don't know the
I haven't, but I know the general gist of the story. This was nominated at the Academy Awards for Best Score, but lost to Titanic's score, which was composed by James Horner.
So did Titanic come out in the same year?
Yeah.
Okay.
I find that really bizarre. Like, nobody ever talks about the Titanic score. And maybe no one really talks about this score, but this score, like, I'm surprised it didn't win that award. Because listening to it, like, this is really good. How did it not win that award? Anyway, doesn't matter. Fun fact, the 4-minute parting scene of the Red Sea sequence took 10 animators 2 years to complete.
Wow.
I know.
That's not surprising.
They were committed. Nothing really to note as far as goofs go. Those are all the facts I have for you about this film. Good night. Just kidding. JK. We're gonna have to be here a long time. No, that's not true. That's not true. So Savannah, I'm genuinely curious to know, what were your general spoiler-free thoughts on this film, and what's your history of this movie? Because you claim we saw it together. I don't remember this, and based on my personal emotional experience watching this film, I don't think that was true.
Yeah. I feel like, I know, I was thinking that too, and I was like, I like your emotional response to the film. I was like, he couldn't have seen this recently, because I don't remember this happening the other time we watched it, unless he's just grown so much softer.
Grown so much softer.
In the year since we supposedly last saw it.
Supposedly.
Well, this movie and I go a long way back.
A long way
to my
back.
childhood.
Okay.
When we watched it. And then when we got to the part where the Hebrew babies were getting killed, I had an emotional
first few minutes.
Yeah, I had an emotional breakdown and have never revisited it since. And it was probably well over, probably 15 years.
Mm.
No, probably maybe a little less than that. Maybe like a decade since I had seen it until I watched it last year, I guess. I don't remember where I watched it or who I was with.
Yeah.
I just remember being like, oh man, that's an okay movie.
Mm-hmm.
Last year.
last year.
or whenever I watched it recently. But yeah, so those were my previous thoughts.
Previous thoughts?
But watching it now, I was like, wow, this is a super good movie. It's very epic.
It is.
Amazing. And like, I didn't think that it was going to be this good. And the story just really gets me. I think that's my favorite part.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it was very respectful and very consistent with the Bible. Granted,
Right.
it's a creative license.
Yeah.
Which
for
is
dramatic tension.
Yeah,
and
which is
whatnot.
not bad, like, in my opinion. I'm fine with that.
VeggieTales does it all the time.
It's true, except this movie did it better. I did really appreciate the fact that there wasn't a humorous character.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was listening to the score today, and I felt tingly
Felt tingly
in my face.
in your face.
As I do when I listen to certain music.
Goosebumps.
Yeah, it's like goosebumps, but like it's just like tingle, like pins and needles in my skin on my face.
Interesting. Huh. So, I grew up with this movie, and as I've told you, I know this film front to back, every line of dialogue. Like, I'm that familiar with it. But it was never my go-to film, and we played it quite frequently, and I don't know if I consistently ever sat down and watched it end to end. I think I just saw it in passing often enough to put it all together. And I knew I wanted to show it to you because, like, this was a childhood movie for me, and I remember it being good. And I feel like it's weird that you're just like, yeah, it's okay. So, like, I felt like we had to revisit it one more time. And I knew it was going to hit me differently as an adult. But I didn't realize it would hit me as hard as it did. This film does not pull any punches. And I don't know if I've felt this much during an animated film since Klaus, which is very
But
different
you
feelings.
definitely responded much different, like more so.
Klaus
to
is like very happy feelings. Like, and just a very, like, it's not even trying to evoke the same emotions, but this one is, it feels like a roller coaster from the beginning to end. Like, it grabs you and it doesn't let go. And it manages to take a very well-known story that we hold very closely to our hearts because of what we believe and make it alive in a very emotional way, because so many people have done adaptations of Exodus because it's such an iconic story.
Yeah.
But most of the time, you know, they're parodies, they're goofy, you know, and they're fine in and of themselves, but it's just amazing that they managed to take that story and make it as good as they did and as emotionally investing as they did. You know, I'm obviously very invested in the personal conflicts they create for the characters. And for me, because I know the story front to back, watching it this time around with a critical eye just made knowing everything coming so much worse. Like, oh man, I know where this is going. Every line of dialogue has much more of an impact.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's just a masterfully crafted film. It feels so large and epic from the way they frame the shots. You know, someone was commenting on a video we were watching about it, like every scene feels like a painting. The art design is just unique. You don't really get that particular style. Not just 2D, but DreamWorks had a very distinctive look early on. And it's kind of sad that it died out so quickly.
And it gave way to Shrek.
Wow. We like Shrek, but...
We do, but the animation, to be honest, is a major step down for this movie.
Well, that's why this film flopped, because Pixar was just coming out, and it was new and novel to have that kind of thing. And Disney Plus was, you know, they were at the top of their game. So this just didn't stand a chance against any of them, which was so sad. I think the thing that makes this movie elevate so much more than just being a good story really is the music. Not just the songs. The songs we'll get into, But the music, like the score, is, aside from it being well crafted, this film is a musical in the sense of it tells story through music, not just through songs, in a very different way than most films, which we'll get into.
Yeah,
But-
I want to.
Yeah, but also the motifs and the themes and the fact that they use the songs instrumentally continuously throughout the film for their characters, like it's just so well done, and it's big and it's epic and wow,
So good.
just so good.
I feel like I will add one more note. I
Okay.
don't think I could watch this movie very often.
Okay,
Did I say that?
I think you mentioned that. Yeah,
Because it's like, I feel like it's something like special
that's
that
fair.
like you want to like unwrap occasionally and like partake of, like special chocolate,
Yeah,
and then put it away for a while.
for a little while. Yeah, yeah. That's
Like I was
fair.
thinking about, like I was like going back and forth with listening to the soundtrack today. I'm like, do I want to ruin the magic of and listen to it again? Because yeah, something about it is just very like, it's very special.
Yeah,
Like I want to tell people about it, but like
but
I don't want to watch
wanna
it all
protect
the time.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the soundtrack gives me goosebumps every single time I listen to it, and I've listened to it a lot lately. Savannah, what was your favorite moment of the movie? Do you have a favorite moment of the movie? Obviously, there aren't a lot of humorous beats in this. There's some. They have some moments of levity, but are there any other moments that strike you as being favorite?
I'm not that shallow. Not only humor.
I
is
know,
my
that's your
favorite.
go-to, though.
It
That's
is
your
my go-to. It is my go-to. I think my favorite part of the movie is the part where Moses is having his existential crisis and coming to grips with the fact that he's not actually an Egyptian and his people are the ones that are being killed or who are killed.
And being
And he's
enslaved,
like,
yeah.
that song, All I Ever Wanted, is my favorite song, I think.
Oh, really?
In the whole thing, yeah.
Okay.
And I think that is my favorite part.
Okay. Why is it your favorite part?
I don't know, something about the mood and just the music is very epic, and his emotion I feel like is very raw and like you feel it, and it is very much a like awakening sort of song where you're like coming out
yeah.
of ignorance and into the knowledge of what is really happening.
Right.
So
Okay. My favorite moment has to be the opening, because it stands up to me as just being such an incredibly unique opening for an animated film. Like, the word I describe this movie as is it feels like a theatrical production, but on film, where they take advantage
not
of
even
film.
on film, but in animation.
It's true, right? Because animation is its own thing, where they take advantage of every aspect of its medium to elevate it. But it feels like it could be a theatrical production. But the opening, it's just so intense, and it throws you into it, and it lays the groundwork, and the music's good, and the art's good, and it's really intense.
It is very intense.
And I feel like I don't know if it would be considered iconic. I feel like it's an iconic opening, but I would consider it the greatest animated film opening, but a close second would have to be Chicken Run's opening.
What is Chicken Run's opening?
It's where they're trying to break out, but like it's the montage, and it's the epic music, and it's like the Great Escape, but
chickens?
chickens, yeah.
Okay. For some reason, that just didn't really stand out to me that much.
Oh,
Maybe I
I'm
haven't
sorry.
seen it.
Well, it stands out to me because of Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget.
Oh, and how that one wasn't good.
Oh, no. No, I frequently considered, probably before watching this, I probably would have considered Chicken Run's opening the best animated film
Interesting.
opening. But I think this one beat it out, but Chicken Run, it's still high.
Wow.
I know, you learn a lot about me.
I know.
All right, well, let's delve into our... Actually, no.
We don't need to do a 5-minute recap. Everyone's read the Bible. They know.
No, you got to do it. You got to do it. We got to stick with tradition. Got to stick with tradition. All right, let's delve into the 5-minute plot recap. Spoilers if you don't know the story, the universal story of the Exodus. Okay, granted, they do some twists if you haven't seen this movie before.
That's true.
So, spoiler territory. If you don't want to be spoiled, if you don't want your milk spoiled, then turn around.
Okay.
But ready, set, go.
So we open the movie with a song, and it is a combination of the showing us the slavery that the Hebrews are in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also Moses' mom smuggling him away in a basket because the Egyptians are coming to kill all the Hebrew baby boys.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're seeing the slavery, we're seeing the babies, or not yet, the babies aren't really being shown. But anyway, Moses gets thrown in the river in his basket, he gets tossed around everywhere, and then he eventually finds himself in the little courtyard pond of Pharaoh's wife, or in the Bible it's his daughter, but
Right.
in the movie it's his wife, and she finds him and adopts him. And so then we cut to Moses as an adult, and him and his brother Ramesses who is Pharaoh's oldest and biological son, and they're playing around, doing chariot stuff, being general nuisances, and they kind of destroy the temple and stuff. And Pharaoh ends up giving them a verbal beating because Ramesses is in line for the throne, and so he has to act a certain way. And
Right.
it kind of just establishes Moses and Ramesses' bro relationship and how they kind of goof around and are kind of dorks and get in trouble and stuff. But Ramesses really wants to take it seriously. He's going to be Pharaoh, and Moses kind of puts in a good word for him and is like, he really wants this. Show him that. And so anyway, they have this party for Ramesses, kind of to announce that he's going to be in line for the throne, and he gets put in charge of the production of the temple and stuff.
Yeah.
And so life is good.
Life is good.
We meet Zipporah because for some reason she got dragged in because
She was captured.
she was captured.
She was going to be for activities.
She was brought in, and Ramesses rejected her and gave her to Moses. And so she got put in Moses' room and then escaped. And Moses saw her leaving, and he followed her, and he ends up in the Hebrew camp. Slavery camp, and his sister, in a kind of unsmart turn of events, is like, "We're your siblings," blah blah blah. And she finds out he doesn't know, and then there's this whole drama, and this is when he has his existential crisis. Well, first he doesn't believe them, and then she sings this song that his mom sang to him as a baby, and it just he feels this, he remembers what happened, I guess, or kind of has this feeling. And so he runs back to the castle, sings a song, great song. And he's like, I'm, basically no, they're not telling the truth. I'm actually an Egyptian. But then he realizes that he is. And then he finds out what happened and how his father ordered the murder of babies and how he was one of those babies. And his, so he's kind of filled with a lot of feelings. And the next day, or sometime in recent days, he is out amongst the slaves, and one of them is getting beaten, and Moses attacks the Egyptian that's beating the Hebrew, and he gets in, everyone kind of sees it happen, and Moses runs off, and Ramesses is like, I'm in charge of everything, I'm the sun and the moon and the stars and everything, so if I can say that, you didn't do this thing, because Ramesses loves Moses and wants to keep him around. But Moses is like, I can't stay here, ask the man that you call father, or the man I used to call father, what happened. And then Moses flees to the desert. And
We've got 2 minutes.
okay, Moses is in the desert. He's with Zipporah's family. They get married.
Whoa.
There's a happy song, and then they get married.
They get married.
And then Moses is out shepherding, and he hears something. He sees something, and he goes in. He sees the burning bush. It speaks to him. God is speaking to him through the burning bush and tells him that he is going to be the means by which the Hebrews are released from their slavery. And so he goes back, tells Zipporah what's happening. They go back to Egypt. And it doesn't specify how much time has elapsed, but I'm assuming it's been a long time. A couple years, at least.
Probably several years, yeah.
Yeah. And so he goes and he goes to Pharaoh, his brother is now Pharaoh, Ramesses, and he tells him what's going on. And Ramesses is like, has his magicians do magic and stuff. And then they have some back and forth. And then Ramesses realizes that Moses is serious. And then he gets kind of mad at him. And so anyway, the plagues happen. There's a lot of back and forth battling between Ramesses and Moses, verbal battling. We eventually end up with the death of Ramesses' son after Moses asks him to let the people go. And he says no countless times. And Ramesses' son is dead. And Ramesses is like, I hate you, blah, 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 leave. And so all the Israelites leave. Hebrews,
yeah.
Whatever. They all leave. And they make it to the Red Sea. Moses parts it epically after they realize the Egyptians are chasing them, even though he told them they could leave. And,
Backstabber, literally.
And so they cross the Red Sea. The Egyptians get consumed by the Red Sea, and then they emerge on the other side. The Hebrews emerge on the other side, ready to make their sojourn to the Promised Land.
The Promised Land. There you go.
There you go.
There you go. If you don't know, now you know.
It's true.
All right,
I didn't even talk about the Passover, but
that's true. Let's delve into our rating system. We've got 4 categories. We'll rate on a scale of 1 to 5, including entertainment, production quality, writing, and content. Savannah, on a scale of 1 to 5, what would you give this for entertainment?
5. Just a big old fat
Big old
5.
5. Wow.
In fact, let me just give all the categories a 5, including content.
Wow, okay.
No.
The end. Wrap it up. Okay, but like seriously.
No, I would give it a 5.
Okay.
A big old fat juicy 5.
Okay. Explain.
It's just such a good movie. It's very epic. It's, like you said, it's a roller coaster of emotion the whole time. It's not even a roller coaster. Well, it is a roller coaster of emotion, I guess. I feel like it's just very gripping. And it makes you feel like you want your eyes to be like glued to the TV the whole time.
Right.
And I don't normally feel that way about movies. Like, it's rare that I watch a movie where I'm like literally like entranced by it the whole time.
I remember the moment the opening happens, you've got your food, and like something happened within that first opening scene where you set your food down, like you sat a little more upright, like, wow, she's in.
Well,
she's
it's true.
in.
I also wanted to be respectful to your emotions in the moment too, and like I feel like it would be disrespectful for you to be feeling things and I'm sitting here crunching my chips. And so I did that out of respect for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
But yes, no, it's true. There was a shift, and I was like ready to settle in for a cartoon, eat my chips, and then it starts playing, and I'm like, no more chips. Chips are suddenly useless and meaningless in this world. I really found the story, the story of Moses and Ramesses' relationship really impactful. Because they were brothers and they were like best friends and they had so much fun together and they were like, but then all of a sudden it all comes crashing down when Moses realizes what happens, and then their love for each other turns into very bitter hatred
from one of their sides.
Moses never hates Ramesses. He's really sad that he's doing it the whole time.
Oh, right.
But it's just very like, oh, this is really depressing actually. But I think the movie does a good job of making Ramesses an increasingly unlikable character. So you're not like super mourning him towards the end.
Yeah, you get to a point it's like, this guy's kind of a jerk.
He gets increasingly more insufferable and increasingly more British. And so, well, sure, synonyms, just kidding.
Ouch. We lost our British member who was considering being a subscriber. How sad.
So anyway, but yes, it was very wow, and like I said, I want to recommend it to everyone.
Wow.
Watch Prince of Egypt.
Wow.
And that's high praise coming from me.
That's high praise, that is, for an animated movie especially.
Animated
musical, which you don't love musicals.
No, and I will say, I will touch on the whole musical aspect.
Yeah. I could give this one a 5 as well. Like, even though I knew it, every single beat that was coming, once again, that just means every hard moment that hit harder because I knew it was coming and I could pay attention to everything leading up to it. I could appreciate the art that was going into every scene and the music and the lines of dialogue and it just building up. I literally had goosebumps the entire time watching it, which was like, this is like a weird and pleasant feeling all at the same time. Even like watching the less emotional scene, like, you know, the chariot race between the two brothers. Like, I know exactly where the story is going, so I'm paying attention to it and like listening to the lines of dialogue. Like, this scene is still so emotional because I know where it's going.
I know.
I know where this is leading. The film does have enough moments of levity, I think, to keep one from feeling too oppressed or depressed the entire time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there are enough moments to be like, haha, that's
Like
kind
that
of
one
funny.
happy song is enough to carry you through the whole movie.
Yeah, they've got moments of, you know, little quips or...
Well, like Zipporah, the whole like her being brought into the temple and then like escaping. Like that was funny.
Yeah. And for better or for worse, they do try and make the animals a little goofy for, I'm assuming, the children's sake. Because this film was targeted. It wasn't targeted. It was when they, what's the word?
Marketed?
Marketed. It was marketed towards children, which is really weird. I don't really know why how you'd market this towards children per se. Yeah, and I appreciate it didn't cater to, which this will go into writing, it didn't cater to the goofy tropes that we do see in most animated children's films. And I think that's why the Iron Giant kind of fell into the trap this did, because it's goofy, it's got its things, but it's a very mature, straightforward story, and it's not catering to children for the sake of catering towards children. It's animated, and people assume that automatically means children. What makes it available to children is the content is fine. The content makes it fine, but the story isn't necessarily children-esque, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
I think like when it comes to movies made for children, I think Charlotte Mason doesn't think that you should make things specifically geared towards children.
right.
And like you should make a mature, really well done story that is accessible to children.
Yeah, these are accessible to children,
yeah.
which, and I think is why Iron Giant and Prince of Egypt flopped, is because they didn't follow the established tropes that Disney at the time had established, because they were the big animation studio, which was the catchy musicals and the goofy side characters, and they've made lots of fun films. Like, I love and hate Disney at the same time.
The Emperor's New Groove.
The Emperor's New Groove, although that was a different scenario. Different time. This was like after the Disney Renaissance, you know.
Was the Emperor's New Groove before this?
No. Emperor's New Groove was like 2000, 2001.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was after the Disney Renaissance. Disney Renaissance includes like
Jungle Book.
Mulan, Tarzan, Beauty and the Beast, The Lion
Not
King.
Mulan.
Yeah.
Is
Mulan came out the same year as this.
1998.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Yeah. But I appreciate that it didn't feel the need to cater to that, because it just made it meant they could focus so much more time and energy on the other aspects of the story. But that will go more into writing. What would you give this for production quality? The animation in this case, the music, the editing.
5.
5.
Just a big old fat
Big
juicy
old fat
5.
juicy 5. Wow, 2 juicy 5s.
I really think I might give this whole movie a 5.
Okay.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Well, why would you give production quality 5? What stands out to you as giving it a 5?
The animation is really cool. It feels very big.
Right.
Like this movie feels huge. Which is something I always appreciate. I just thought that the design, I will say I do have a gripe with the character design. I feel like the people were kind of weird looking.
Okay.
And it's a stylistic choice. They just were all
Right.
very angular.
Well, that was them trying to it's, they're cartoons in a sense, but they're trying to replicate that particular group of people a little more, I guess. That's what I've heard they were trying to.
Maybe.
But whatever,
I
that's
just
besides
thought,
the
like, I
point.
thought specifically Ramesses and Moses were kind of, like, odd looking.
If you sat and looked at them too long.
Yeah. I'm like, what's going on with you?
I know, there was a moment where we had to pause for you to use the bathroom, and I was looking at Ramesses' face, like, the longer I look at his face, the more
Unnatural.
natural it's looking.
So that is like a minor gripe. I don't really care. I feel like they, I don't know, I don't want to say they could have paid more attention to the character design, because I don't want to like make a big deal out of something that's not really that big of a deal. I thought Miriam and Aaron were kind of snooze too, like design wise, and
Okay.
just as characters in general.
Right, that's fair.
But no, I would give it a 5. Like, I feel like the music was really good. The score, is this production quality? Mm-hmm. I thought the music was really good.
Okay.
I thought that I was really pleasantly surprised that, like you said, the songs perfectly laced into the story.
Right.
They move the story forward rather than pause the story, which I really value. I hate it
Right.
when you're watching a movie and it's just like a useless side song
Yeah.
and it doesn't move anything. Like all of the Frozen songs, for example, it's just there and like nothing happens.
They're catchy. They're more popular than these songs are ever going to be. But yeah, these ones, they strategically place them to move the story along, as you said. Like the opening, it's delivering the setting, the scene, what's happening, the plagues, it's covering a span of time. The song, I'm forgetting Zipporah's father's name, whatever her father sings, like, and it's moving the story along. They're covering vast spans of time. Like, it's just, they're very well placed, and they're not like there because it has to be there.
Yeah, so that gives it a huge raise up, in my opinion. I also appreciated that there weren't too many songs. Because I hate it. Like, a lot of old musicals fall into this trap. A lot, like really old musicals.
Right.
Where you're watching the movie, you're enjoying it, and then after 5 minutes, a song starts, and then you're watching it for like 3 more minutes, and then another song, like 5-minute song, which doesn't progress the story. Like, and it's The Sound of Music.
Right.
I'm not hating on The Sound of Music, but there's a lot of songs.
There are a lot of songs.
And they don't do anything. They just are there, and they're great songs. But like, I kind of get tired of hearing all the singing sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, those would be my strongest thoughts on the whole production quality.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. The film feels huge. They did incorporate 3D animation into this, specifically with backdrops, to make Egypt feel as big as it did. They created a lot of 3D backdrop scenery and put 2D animation in front of it. So it feels huge, and the scale of ancient Egypt just feels amazing and almost fantastical in a way that maybe, I don't know if it was ever that big, but for this movie's sake, like, it works. But yeah, the music also feels huge, and it, I think, just elevates the score specifically. It just elevates this animated film from, if it had been a mid-score, to be like okay, to like, actually, wow, this actually makes me feel a lot of things. The music, the songs themselves, once again, we've already established why they're unique for this animated film, but I just think they're overlooked because they're not as catchy. I think Deliver Us is the most iconic because people use it. They probably use it in memes these days. I don't know what they do these days. But that one's a little more iconic. But there's Moses' song, which you've mentioned, which is really impactful. There's Through Heaven's Eyes, which is just fun, and it just kind of establishes a new belief that Moses needs to start looking at the world through the plagues. it's a very intense
Or are we
goosebump
just
song.
ignoring that weird song at the
Oh, there was that. Yeah, that was my least favorite.
Yeah, mine too.
It set up like, okay, this is kind of scary.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think this movie's worse for having it, but it's just not as... If you were to rank the songs in this, it definitely would be at the bottom.
Yeah, I felt like it was just awkwardly, like the timing was awkward too.
Really?
Like just the song's timing. Like it's not a very easy to listen to song.
Okay. That's fair. Yeah. And then there's When You Believe towards the end, which
I
once
honestly
again...
can't conjure that one up in my mind.
Oh, okay. I like that one a lot. That's probably my favorite song in the movie, just because, aside from it being a beautiful song, and it serving the purpose of moving the plot along, because it's the Israelites leaving, it's just the way... It's such a somber song to start with, because even though they
that's the one that Miriam starts singing. Okay.
Even though they've just won, so to speak, it was such a tragedy to get there, and it's like, oh, it slowly builds into a really happy song, but it starts so sad in some ways. Like, this is not typical for these kinds of stories. I really like the burning bush motif as they've established. I think that's probably the most overlooked Hans Zimmer motif, because most of the time when you hear it in the film, it's such a soft, eerie, atmospheric melody that contrasts, the big, epic, powerful nature of God that we're going to see unleashed later.
Yeah.
It's very gentle, and it has its moments where it becomes really grand, but they only use that for when it's needed, and I just think it's well placed, and it's just not one I ever see on the best Hans Zimmer playlists.
That's actually a good point.
Yeah. I do want to talk about Ray Fiennes' acting specifically. I thought all the acting in this was pretty good. I really like Ray Fiennes, even though he was British, and Ramesses became more British as the went along. I thought his acting was really good. I really liked it, and I think the moment that stood out to me was when Moses is leaving Ramesses after just murdering someone, and there's that moment where he's pleading with Moses to stay. I just think that particular voice acting was really good. Like, he's trying to, like, no, I can cover this up, I can make things better, and it turning into pleading. Something about that particular just stands out to me as being an excellent piece of voice acting from him. And it's such a sad moment too.
Yes. This whole movie is just one big sad moment.
It's true. But yeah, we've already established the animation feels like every single scene is a painting, really.
Still not as good, in my opinion, as...
Klaus?
No, as, whatever that Bigfoot movie's got.
Oh, Missing Link.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
That movie is very beautiful.
That's true. That is a very beautiful movie. Yeah, I don't know if I really have anything else to comment on production quality. I thought the editing to the music was good. Because, okay, this was an interesting point. They hardly ever sit on the characters singing. Like, sometimes they'll, like, show them for a moment singing, but they hardly ever stay on them singing before they turn away, and, like, it just cuts and it's a montage and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think, one, because practical reasons, it's just really awkward to animate that. At that time, we have to draw it by hand, like, phew, this is exhausting. And two, like, they just realize it's not like a Frozen moment where you're going to stand Elsa the whole time, because it's her singing about her being free, about her because she's free,
That's true.
That was just an interesting observation I made. Like, we hardly ever stay on these guys while they're singing. That's interesting.
Yeah, and I wonder why they don't focus on Moses. They wouldn't be like Moses singing about things, and then you just see like Moses costumes popping up in the store. Like all the little boys want to wear a giant
Moses
robe.
costumes. That's funny.
I like Moses' dogs.
Oh,
His skinny
they're very
little
derpy.
dogs. They're very derpy.
They're very derpy.
They're cute though. I like them.
What would you give this on a scale of 1 to 5 for writing? Let me guess. 5.
5, yes.
Big juicy 5.
Big juicy
Okay.
5.
Explain. Explain yourself.
Explain myself. I don't know how to really share my thoughts without sounding like a broken record, just from what I've said before. But you probably have a lot more thoughts, so I don't want to take your glory from you. So I'll let you share yours, and then I'll chime in.
I give this a 5 as well. What makes the film really work as the Exodus story is the relationship between Moses and Ramesses, where they build it up as this brotherhood and it's believable and then becomes super tragic because they fall apart. I really like that because they set it up that way. Mm-hmm. The idea of Pharaoh's heart hardening makes perfect sense.
Yeah, like with his rise to power and stuff. And I think it makes it more compelling, too, that he's his brother in this movie versus his grandpa, which is what in the Bible, that would be who he was. Like, he probably wouldn't have had as close of a relationship to his grandfather.
Yeah, it just made Moses' aspect of like, oh, I don't want to do this so much harder too. Not that he knew it was going to be Ramesses as Pharaoh when he went back. Like that was kind of like oh, you're the Pharaoh. Uh-oh.
Why did he not? Would he not have known that? Would he have thought that the other one would have been still alive?
Well, we're never told. Like I guess he went into it not knowing. So, yeah, because he's been away. He's had no communication. The time he left, his father was still Pharaoh. And I think just the pressure that Ramesses faces from himself and his father to be Pharaoh and to be great, but even better than his dad, in addition to the relationship between the brothers and just him feeling betrayed by Moses because he doesn't have the same beliefs and convictions. It adds up really well to make a very compelling character and not just a bad guy. And he does become less likable as the film goes on because he is so prideful that he's putting other people in danger, his own people in danger, which is the difference between Moses and Ramesses. Is Moses trying to free his people, whereas Ramesses is trying to hold on to these people so hard that he's hurting his own people doing it, which is not good leadership.
No.
But yeah, there was lots of lines of dialogue between Moses and Ramesses early on where Moses was jesting about, like, you'll single-handedly be the one to bring down the whole kingdom, blah, blah, blah. Like, uh-oh. Surprise. And then the whole line about being the weak link being the thing Ramesses heard and like clutched onto and like was almost traumatized by in a lot of ways, like internalized that. I thought that was good. The one big moment I wanted to emphasize in this film, which was once again stands out in just being a unique moment in animated films, is the moment where Moses leaves Ramesses after he tries to comfort him because of the death of Ramesses' son. You know, Ramesses is like, I'm done with you, get out of here. And Moses leaves, and he is walking down the steps, and it's a very wide shot, and he's just a little person, but he just like stops and starts sobbing, and it's...
Moses?
Yeah, and it's like a 15-20 second shot, that static shot of just him sobbing over the situation, and it's still and it's quiet. It's like, that is such a slow and tender moment that you get in like a live action drama, but not in these films like ever. Pixar kind of sorta, but not quite to this level. And it's just, it stood out to me as being a very unique moment. I thought the integration of God in this film was well done. Because Christian films, this isn't a Christian film. It's a film based on a story that has significance to the Christian faith. But, you know, VeggieTales, famous for being funny, parody, you know, animated stories, but it's a parody.
Really impactful.
Yeah, it's a parody. Like, they know that. And more often than not, when people try to do these kinds of stories dramatically, for some reason it doesn't work, and especially bringing God into it, it just always gets awkward. But somehow I feel like they managed to pull it in where I believed in it and was emotionally invested. And I want to get your thoughts, because I'm not entirely sure how they got away with it. I don't know if it was because the rest of the story was so good and they managed to integrate this part without feeling the need to over-explain it because they assume you know the story at this point.
Yeah, I felt like God didn't have a huge role.
He didn't.
He just was there during the burning bush sequence, and then, like, he was the reason why Moses was doing what he was doing. But I felt like they made, I think it was probably a choice from the directors, too, to make it not overtly Christian.
Right.
Not that that story is really inherently Christian so much as it's Jewish more so.
Right.
But yeah, I felt like...
They weren't ever preachy with it.
Yeah, I felt like he was the motivator. I felt maybe it was a little too nebulous, like the concept of God is not fully concrete, maybe.
Okay.
But I don't know. I think they did a decent job.
Yeah. I think because they took a story that we all know is, universally, like everybody knows Exodus. And then they took, okay, this is what happened. This is as is. We're not going to try and put any other additional messages into it. Not that these people would have anyway, because they're, for all intents and purposes, they're just animators who happen to work on this story. But he was a character, but he wasn't necessarily he was more of a somebody or something that drove the plot,
Yeah.
as opposed to it being a story where they bring him up and they talk about him occasionally, and he's kind of there, but he doesn't really. He's not there at the same time.
God has given us this land.
But he was something that moved the plot and compelled Moses to do what he did. So I don't know if that's really the reason why, but I was just pondering, like, why does it just not feel as awkward as when they tried to other times? But yeah. Other movies, I felt like this feels similar to.
Oh yeah, I was going to share my
Disney's
thoughts too with that.
With that,
Basin.
Hunchback of Notre Dame, kind of similar, dark, mature, but of course, the Hunchback of Notre Dame is still Disney. So they're still going to have the certain types of songs they're going to have are going to be characters stopping and singing, and they're going to throw in additional jokes and humor and kind of things in there that are just over the top and kind of like, oh, okay, they kind of, whatever, they kind of killed the mood. I felt like there was some other I was thinking of, but I can't remember what it was. Did you have any others, or was it just that one?
Yeah, no, Hunchback of Notre Dame, no, I didn't think it was, I didn't think of that one.
Okay.
Pocahontas comes to mind.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, a lot, because darker, more mature, not a ton of comic relief characters. There's the raccoon and the hummingbird, but
Right.
they don't necessarily ruin thought-provoking moments.
Okay.
I feel like the songs also kind of move the story forward a little more in that one.
Okay.
Not a ton, but there's the beginning song that's Colors of the Wind.
Colors of the Wind,
Iconic.
iconic.
So yeah, Pocahontas is really, I thought of that one a lot. I like Pocahontas. Also, Hunchback of Notre Dame is, I do think it is similar to that.
Yeah.
Also, Zipporah Run Me of Esmeralda.
That's true. And the music is kind of similar to that one. It's big and intense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of similar veins. Zipporah, Esmeralda, strong female characters. But, you don't hate them.
No.
Esmeralda, I think, was well written. Zipporah didn't have as
Super
much
well,
screen
yeah.
time. I liked her as a contrast to Moses because it made Moses' calling to be the deliverer a little more interesting with that dynamic, because looks like she could beat him up, but she's willing to go along with him for this mission, and she supports him in this way. And it just made a very interesting dynamic, which I liked.
She definitely is a little bit more of a abrasive female character.
Mm-hmm.
She's not very warm and fuzzy.
No.
Like Miriam.
Yeah.
Miriam looks like someone you would want to be your wife.
Want to be your friend.
Yeah, you marry her and bring her home and she'll make you cookies. But Zipporah looks like she would punch you.
That's what Moses needed. He was a bit arrogant growing up.
True.
He needed a punch in the face.
He did.
Okay, last category. It's getting late. Phew, man. Content. Scale of 1 to 5. What would you give this film as far as content, where we weigh the negative aspects of the story versus the overall story they're trying to tell? Does it fit in? Is it unnecessary? Is it offensive? What are your thoughts? Ooh, big yawn.
I think I'd give it a 4.
Okay.
It's a little scary.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think for me, as a very sensitive child, someone who I have memories of crying too much to finish a lot of stories when I was a kid. So, this was one of them.
Sad.
And I just think it's a little traumatizing with, like, babies being killed. And, like, you didn't even really see anything.
No.
But it just hits you. And even as a very young child, I felt that.
Yeah. It's the implication. Like, I think that's good storytelling through film. It's not having to inherently show you just so much as you know what's happening, and they use the art of everything else around you to make you feel it.
Yeah.
So you don't see it happening, but you still feel the trauma of it happening.
Yeah. So I'd say that. I think that's the only thing, like, not that scene, but just the general kind of scariness of it. But it's not super scary. I just think a really sensitive child like I was probably wouldn't really want to watch this movie. They might need to watch VeggieTales for a couple more years.
It's true. A little safer.
Yes.
I think. The reason I go between 4 and 5. The reason being, 4 makes sense because it is kind of a little more intense and maybe not as accessible to young children, as you said, especially sensitive young children, because it is scary, but it's not like any particular aspect of it does not fit in with the story they're trying to tell.
Well, yeah, but little kids can't tell that. Like, oh,
Yeah.
yes, this
no,
is...
No, but the rating system isn't necessarily inherently just for kids,
No, it's
per
true.
se.
But that's why I gave it a 4.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. Yeah, I mean, the humor, there's no language, no sexual content, no innuendos.
Other than... I was telling Ramesses saying that Zipporah can go to Moses' room.
It's true, that was a little
Edgy.
edgy.
And they show a silhouette that's supposedly her. That's kind of like
That's true.
suggestive, which is not actually her, but
Sure, that's fair. I guess I'll give it a 4. It's a close 5.
they're
though.
minor quibbles.
Yeah, minor quibbles. I guess what would this have to, in order to be a 5? Like, is there anything this film could have done differently to be a 5?
No, not necessarily. I don't think a 4 is bad. Like, I think it's just the themes are a little heavier.
Right.
Like, I would give a movie like one of the Barbie movies, like Barbie and the Diamond Castle or something. I'd give that a 5 because there's literally nothing like
Yeah.
Barbie. Yeah, any of those Barbie movies, I would probably give them a 5 because they're happy. No, really, any scary stuff.
Innocent,
no bad
wholesome,
words. Wholesome, innocent.
yeah.
So that's what I would do.
Okay.
So I'm not saying it's bad because it's a 4. It's just
Right,
a little
right.
more dark.
That's fair. And I didn't interpret you saying it was bad because it was
Not to
4.
mention a baby being taken from his mom and being thrown in the river, and that's always sad.
I know, that's very sad. Don't think about it too much.
I need to go snuggle my baby now.
Okay. Well, you've snuggled her plenty tonight.
I
You're
know.
like, please stay asleep. Don't wake up.
I know, maybe Spud will need me to snuggle him. Just kidding.
Maybe. All right, what would you... ugh. Okay, so that wraps up our rating system. We've got a 5-5-5 for the 3 of us. So the first 3 categories, we both give it a 4 for the last one. You've already established what you're giving this. But go ahead and say it again.
5.
And go ahead and when you say you want to recommend this, why does it go down on the list of good film movies?
I would recommend it. I would say, hey, have you ever seen Prince of Egypt? If not, you totally should. Super great. Mm-hmm. Really good. Really epic. Lots of feelings.
Lots of feelings.
Lots of feelings. I would put it on the list.
Okay. Would you put it above or below Klaus? I'm curious.
It's totally different.
Yeah.
Klaus is like
Klaus is a little more
quirky and
rewatchable.
whimsical. Yeah, Klaus is definitely more. Like, Klaus is like a yearly revisitation, whereas
Right.
this is like maybe yearly, but like I wouldn't like be like, oh, it's the most wonderful time of year. It's Prince of Egypt time.
Right. But if you had to. Like, which one do you feel like you feel, I mean, they're both impactful in their own ways.
I would put this one above Klaus.
Do you feel like, what about it particularly sparks, what about it is more impactful to you? Whereas Klaus is more accessible. It's well done. It's cute. What about this kind of makes it a little more standout? Like, what about it do you think would be in your thoughts more, I guess, as opposed to Klaus?
No, just a lot of it. Like, I feel like, no, a lot of this. I think Klaus is really good. Mm-hmm. It's not a movie that, like, sticks with me as much. This one is one that I've been thinking about a lot since we watched it. And it is just much more impactful emotionally for me. Just because of the, like, weight of it.
Right.
This movie is very weighty. That movie is really fun and whimsical, and I love that about it. This one is one that I feel like it kind of hits me in the soul more, and I think just my faith too. It kind of impacts me more because of that also.
Well, I think it also because, yeah, we have the knowledge and the belief that this happened. Not, this is an animated movie, this is an interpretation. But, like, things to this nature happened.
Yeah.
And, seeing the scene of Moses and the burning bush, it's beautifully done, but there's also an aspect of, like, this is an interpretation of a moment like that, and they make it beautiful. And it makes me feel things because, like, what would that have been like if I had been there, kind of thing. And there's tragedy, obviously, but, like, that's universal to human experience.
Yeah.
But I think the Hebrews have a very unique plight, obviously. And then the plagues and just how scary and tragic that is, and the Red Sea. So I don't know if you want to expound upon that anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Prince of Egypt and Klaus is like the story and the characters are like a flower that's gradually blooming and becoming more vibrant and alive and beautiful, whereas
Right.
Prince of Egypt is like a flower that's dying. But like, no, I'm saying like the why is that so funny to you?
One
ruined
movie
my
is
metaphor.
like a beautiful flower that's blooming, and the other movie it's like a flower that's dying.
You didn't let me finish.
No,
I don't
please
want to.
do.
No, I don't want to finish.
No, please do. Please, I want to hear the rest of your metaphor. It's just the way you said it specifically. I'm curious
Because
to
you
know where it's
laughed
going.
before I could finish.
No, please go. Go on. I want to hear the rest of it. I'm genuinely curious. Like, I want you to explain it more because it doesn't make sense to me.
So I feel like Klaus, we see a person change for the better, and in Prince of Egypt, we see a person change for the worse, and that's Ramesses. Like
Right.
it's like a story of Klaus is a story of becoming and believing in beauty, kind of like starting to see that. Whereas
Okay.
Klaus is Prince of Egypt is like a deterioration of that, and it's becoming like
When
closing off, like a
pride-
heart closing
yeah.
off versus a heart opening. Hence the
That-
flower metaphor.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you, but just the way you said it was funny, and my brain couldn't think of what connection you were going to make. But that makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you. I agree. I give this a 5. I probably, if I had to guess, I probably would have given this something between a 3 and a 4. If, like, I were thinking about, what am I going to rate this? I've seen it 100 times, whatever. And I never thought this would be a film I would have thought so highly of. Because it's just another one that we could pull off the shelf and watch whenever growing up. So it's interesting how as one grows up, their relationship and experience to stories and whatever media changes. For all intents and purposes, my favorite movie for a long time was The Lorax. But
Consider it a cinematic masterpiece.
I don't know about that, but now look at me. Now look at me.
No. Have I ever told you that I always associated Dr. Seuss movie characters with you? And
Yeah, yep. We don't need to go there.
Specifically the little black Who on Important Years of
Yep. I know. But yeah, this film manages to take full advantage of its art form and delivers a story that's compelling, but also just epic visually, cinematically, musically, and it's really nice that they have managed. It's one of the few movies based off of biblical stories that they managed to make that I feel like are really impactful. And I feel like Christian filmmakers specifically really should look at it more and examine it more and take inspiration from it.
It's true.
Not that everyone's trying to do that, but this film is accessible to most audience members because it's not being so exclusive in its messaging. It's a universal story that has truths that can be gleaned by, everybody everywhere, like, unless you're a psychopath, obviously. And so it's not trying to be all inclusive in a particular thing, which I think when you don't feel like you have to be very exclusive to your audience, you have so much more freedom to tell a wide story. So yeah, I agree, joins the list. Definitely so. I would like a copy one day of this film to add to our shelf. Maybe my kids won't watch as much as I did growing up, but yeah, look at us. Look at us. Who would have thought?
I know.
Who would have thought? What a pleasant surprise. But thank you all for stopping by and listening. We hope you've been inspired to have some more conversations around the movies you're watching. Let us know what you thought about this movie. Let us know how we did in our rating system. And until next time, good film hunting.